Self-sufficiency is king. One of the greatest ways that we can take control of our lives, that we can create for ourselves. When I use the term self-sufficiency, I think a lot of us will think about the idea of growing your own food. Yes, that is a form of self-sufficiency, but self-sufficiency doesn't have to just be growing your own food. Self-sufficiency is a concept that we can apply to many, many aspects of our lives. I want to, in this video, challenge you to investigate how you can become more self-sufficient, and how through being self-sufficient, not only will you experience benefit and reward from it, but fundamentally, I think you'll have a better life for it. Like I say, most of us will think that self-sufficiency is growing your own food, getting chickens. But self-sufficiency comes in many forms. I talked about in my most recent video this idea of how through experiencing authenticity, through experiencing authentic energy from somebody else, I was inspired to make clothes, right? This is another one of my shirts that I've made for myself. This shirt was the first object I've ever 100% hand sewn, 100% handmade, so to speak. Through making this shirt, it taught me that I don't need a sewing machine. So right, if there is ever a problem with my sewing machine, or there's, some enormous societal collapse, all I need is some thread, a needle, and some fabric. I wanted to challenge myself into being self-sufficient at the highest degree, right? So no longer was I just creating an item of clothing for myself that was individual, unique, and fundamentally cheaper than if I were to buy something from a high street brand shop, but also it was made from a higher quality. And you have to ask yourself, why is that the case, right? Why is it that when I go to Gucci, Prada, Versace, why are those items of clothing so expensive, but the quality just isn't there anymore? And the reason being is because the system that we are experiencing is a capitalist system. It's designed to create the most amount of profit from providing, shall we say, the lowest quality possible so that profit can be made. Nothing is meant to last these days, so that then you have to buy. Again, I'm not saying you've got to sew, but I'm simply using it as an example because for me, sewing has been this great lesson in taking responsibility, taking control in my life, because I became fed up of spending 100 quid on an item of clothing and it would break within a year. The sewing journey simply started with learning to sew buttons. A button would fall off of a jacket. Instead of throwing the jacket away, I just thought to myself, well, I should just buy a little sewing kit and I should learn to replace the button. And I can reuse this item. It's not broken, there's nothing wrong with it. I've just got a hole or I've lost a button. And through being self-sufficient, through challenging myself in little steps at first, I took more control of my life. I was now no longer having to buy another piece of clothing, spending more money. And all money is just a measure of human energy. In understanding that, what I want to do is I want to challenge you in realizing that you have a limited amount of resource that is your energy. And so you can only spend so much of it in specific ways. And so if you're earning X amount of money for X amount of time, you really need to see the value in that time and your energy and put it into your life in more potent ways. What I mean by potent is that you want to get the maximum output from the minimum input. You don't want to waste energy unnecessarily. So what self-sufficiency allows you to do is that you can, should we say, take control of your life in more ways than you can perceive. Through sewing and making clothes for myself, not only have I been able to save money, but it's taught me that I have the ability to create, that I have not only the ability but the responsibility to create for myself. And I've tried to reflect that in other aspects of my life, in realizing the lesson, in realizing the power. And so I got chickens recently, and I was looking at the costs of buying a chicken coop online, and I was shocked as to how expensive chicken coops were. I thought to myself, well, Fraser, you've discovered that you have the ability to create the clothes. Why don't you challenge yourself to build a chicken coop? Let's see if you can do it for cheaper. And so I went out and about and I scavenged bits of pallet wood, I scavenged materials that I found here and there that people were just throwing away. And I built a chicken coop to my requirement that was cheaper. that was better. I created systems within that chicken coop that benefited me. I put an automatic chicken door with a solar charger on the top that opened and closed, meaning that I didn't then have to go and let the chickens out or put them in at night time. I taught the chickens to put themselves to bed. I made an automatic watering system for the chickens that allows them to drink and doesn't need me to go every day and fill up their drinker. What that affords me then is the opportunity to have more time, to have more energy, to have more resource, to not waste it unnecessarily, and to be able to curate my life and take more control in my life than I would have if I had just engaged as a consumer. And I really want to challenge you all into realizing that this title of being a consumer simply means to be a slave, because by consuming, you are engaging and enslaving yourself to a system, to a concept, to an idea, to a constructed reality that may not necessarily benefit you. That's not to say that you should stop buying things, because look, there is a lot of benefit to be had in the world with being able to go and buy a chainsaw or an axe that you can then use on your land, to buy a hammer, to buy a screwdriver, to buy a drill. But I simply just want to challenge you in, when you buy a screwdriver, when you buy a drill, what is the most self-sufficient way of doing this? Do I go to the high street brand and do I buy something that's very expensive, or do I go on eBay and do I look for something that's secondhand that's just as good of a value but it's got a bunch of scratches here and there? How can you be more self-sufficient? How can you be more self-reliant? How can you engage in ways that cause you to experience the maximum benefit from the minimum input? Grow your food if you can. Get chickens. Create systems for yourself. Create expressions for yourself that benefit you, that don't cause you to be enslaved. I think that the most rebellious thing that you can do in your expression as a human being on planet Earth is to be self-sufficient, is to take control of your life. Because then you no longer become reliant upon the government, the system, to dictate to you what it is that you can or can't do. You're now no longer being told that, I'm sorry, there are no potatoes in the shops, there's no loo roll, there's no pasta, which we all saw during COVID. And instead you can say to yourself, well, I have a bunch of loo rolls stored in the garage. I've been self-sufficient in taking responsibility in my life. I've been responsible and self-sufficient in taking control, in having enough potatoes, in growing potatoes, in getting chickens, and having eggs. So I'm not saying to you you've got to learn to sow. What I'm simply saying to you is that in more ways than not, you can become more self-sufficient. You can take control of your life, and I challenge you to do so. I simply want to sort of give you these examples to show you what's possible, to show you that not only is it possible, but it will benefit you more. Be honest with yourself. Be rigorous with yourself. Investigate how you can become more self-sufficient. Investigate what are the things that you can do to take control of your life. What are the things you can do to benefit you more? If there's anything I want you to take away from this video, is that through being self-sufficient, your life will transform. Through being self-sufficient, you will receive more benefit. So, my brothers, my sisters, I leave you all in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. And we give thanks to God for blessing us, for allowing us to create, for allowing us to be self-sufficient, for allowing us to realize the creative power that we have within us, the God-given power that we have within us. So I leave you all in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. And I send you many blessings to you wherever you are in the world.